Welcome back to another episode of Self-Development with Tactics podcast. And as you might be able to see in the background, Tim Ferriss. Yesterday I went through one article by Tim Ferriss, which was about, let me see, because I don't remember, first of all journaling, but second of all deloading. Now I do remember. People might know deloading phases from bodybuilding, how should I say, in bodybuilding terms, where you just, for some period of time, you don't go as hard, because you know that when you are in prep for the new show, or you want to really get onto another level for personal reasons, you have the energy to do so. But if one goes hard all the time, one might not have the energy to do so. And this is the whole thing about deloading, to just, for some period of time, get more energy to be able to do even more when you're willing to do something. So this is basically kind of a summary of this, but let's have a look what we can find here on the right hand side, which are the tags, I would say, or categories or whatever you want to call them. There we have, for example, psychedelics, mini retirements, mental performance, marketing, investing, interviews, entrepreneurship, and so on and so forth. But I'm interested in mental performance and what he says about that. The Master and the Fool, which is a story as far as I remember. I don't remember the story, but I do remember that it was a pretty good story. There we have some interviews or transcripts of interviews, so basically his podcast, my evening routine. Then we have the deloading phase, actually learn how to triple your reading speed in 5 minutes, which is a video. Then we have Rick Rubin and can you rewire your brain in 2 weeks, one man's attempt. Let's actually go through that one. Seems to be rather interesting. It is from 2000 and I thought it was 14. Yes, should be 14. And apparently is from the 4-Hour Body, I guess, and or an excerpt of that, and or just something that has something to do with the 4-Hour Body. Who the fuck knows? I don't. Can you rewire your brain in 2 weeks? The answer appears to be, at least partially, yes. The following is a guest post by Shane Snow, frequent contributor to Wired and Fast Company and author of the new book Smart Cuts: How Hackers, Innovators and Icons Accelerate Success, yada yada yada. In this post, Shane tests the brain-sensing headband called Muse. It's received a lot of PR love, but does it stand up to the hype? Can it make you a calmer, more effective person in 2 weeks? This post tackles these questions and much more. As many of you know, I am a long experimenter with smart drugs, quote unquote, which I think are both more valuable and more dangerous than most people realize. This includes homemade brain stim, what the fuck, TDCS, so small t like Theodore, capitalized D like Dora, and C like Caesar, and S like Salamander. Devices I wouldn't recommend without supervision, and other cutting edge tools. If you'd like to read more on these topics, please let me know in the comments. I actually would like to see what this is. It's Wikipedia. A transcranial direct current simulation is a form of neuromodulation that uses constant low direct current delivered via electrodes on the head. It was originally developed to help patients with brain injuries or neuropsychiatric conditions such as major depressive disorder. The more we know. Enter Shane Snow. The electrodes needed to be adjusted to fit my sweaty head, which was apparently the largest size the product could accommodate. I was sitting on a Porsche, not a Porsche, but on a pork in Pulp, wherever, on a midsummer's morning at Polling Air Force Base, trying to get a quarter of EEG sensor to connect my brain to my Samsung Galaxy. The purple box on my screen kept blinking in and out of sync. Inside the house, my friend's 2-year-old was jumping violently on the sofa, the same sofa that the shedding 15-pound cat named Endai and I had shared for the past week. The house was in shambles. Movers were busily trucking everything away to my friend's house to be new home in New Mexico, hence the pork. I had been sleeping on said couch due to the abrupt ending of an 8-year relationship which had left me stunned and homeless for the preceding 3 weeks. As luck would have it, the anti-anxiety pills my shrink had prescribed for me to ask as needed were back in New York in my friend Simon's living room. Crap. My calendar had just alerted me that I'd missed the Skype call start time for my company board meeting right before the movers unplugged the internet. Meanwhile, a platoon of military helicopters had decided to play what appeared to be a game of who can hover the longest over the neighborhood. Chuck, 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 chuck. My stress levels were high. It seemed like as good a time as to try out my gadget, a brainwave sensing headband called the Muse and its companion app Calm. I placed the band centimeter wide contact strip of electrodes against my forehead and rested the plastic against the top of my ears, fiddling with the fit until my phone finally registered a solid connection for each of the sensors, 2 on my temples, 2 between my ears. I donned my white Audio Technica DJ headphones and fired up the app, which in soothing voice instructed me to sit up straight and breathe. Calm is a simple meditation exercise, count your breath, blah 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 blah. At the end of 5 minutes, the app confirmed I am not very calm. Thus began my 2-week experiment in brain therapy. I'd been planning on acquiring a Muse after having caught wind of its development nearly 2 years before, but now knew it would finally be released during the most anxious time of my adult life. 2 weeks was plenty of time, Muse inventor Ariel Garten told me, for the Muse focus training exercises to reduce perception of pain, improve memory, improve affect, reduce anxiety, and also improve emotional intelligence. Seemed a little good to be true, but I was willing to test it. Electroencephalography, or EEG, apparently the recording of electrical activity emitted from the brain, has come a long way in the last 100 years since doctors drilled holes in monkeys' heads to attach sensors and eventually glued contacts with cathode ray tubes to intact human skulls to map brain activity. They discovered that the brain emits signals of variable frequency, and the frequency of the indicates what's happening at high level in one's mind. These waves are generally delineated into categories based on frequency ranges. So we have delta waves, theta waves, alpha waves, beta waves, and gamma waves. So first one being deep sleep, then deep relaxation or meditation, relaxed brain state, or an open state of mind, quote unquote. The beta waves, alertness, fire up when you activate thinking, and gamma is high alert and often associated with learning. And there you have a few graphs to see what they look like. What I can see for all the podcast listeners is that the gamma waves are very fast in spiking and valleying again. Whereas, for example, the delta waves, they have some smooth ocean-like pattern. Very smooth, nothing really spiky. How long is this article actually? It's actually very, very, very long. I didn't expect it to. Well, it's okay, but I think that I'm not gonna finish it today. Something that might be interesting is brain waves and using them, so trying to be in a certain brain wave when you're trying to do a certain thing, for example learning, you should probably be in a gamma state, whereas when you're meditating it should probably be something different. It originally was for epilepsy. Over the decades, however, as computers improved, neuroscientists' increasing capability to process the enormous amount of data that brain throws off allowed them to experiment with EEG for other uses such as attention therapy. There's a book called The Brain That Changes Itself. Neuroscientist Norman Deutsch, Doidge, whatever, made mainstream the then recent and surprising finding that the brain can change its own structure and function through thought and activity. Our intelligence and tendencies are not locked in once we are not longer children, as popular belief once held. Once our brain was wired, it could still be rewired. Deutsch called it the most important alteration in our review of the brain since we first sketched out its basic anatomy and the workings of its basic component, the neuron. This adaptability factor of the brain is called neuroplasticity. You might have heard it at some other place. You might have heard it from Andrew Huberman and so forth. Probably one of the reasons why certain drugs should not be consumed up to a certain amount of time. You may have seen dubious advertisements, I think at least. I'm not sure. Advertisements for brain-enhancing games and other gimmicks that drop the term neuroplasticity in impressive sounding but often meaningless marketing speech. Despite this misuse, the plasticity of our neurons is, in fact. Our brains use it to wire themselves naturally, but in the past several years, scientists have developed a simple procedure to quote-unquote hack them, which is called neurofeedback training, or NFT. So NFT is now slightly, very, very slightly differently connotated. As the scientists call it, it is a conditioning method wherein a patient is hooked up to an EEG and shown how active her brain is, thus allowing her to concentrate on exercises that exploit neuroplasticity to build mental muscles and allow her to consciously affect her resting brain activity. Clinical studies have shown that NFT helps the majority of patients to improve their cognitive control and also helped ADHD sufferers significantly improve their ability to focus. NFT has been shown to have a positive effect on depression. With that being said, I'm probably going to end the episode here for today. I might go through the rest of it, not quite sure, still find it funny, the whole NFT thing. But yeah, up until then, see you soon, bye bye.